Hello, my soul friends. It is Victoria, the soul nurturer. Just checking in. I just really wanted to take a moment and really, from my heart to yours, ask, how are you doing? Wow, we're really in it, aren't we? This is the time for all of us to lean into our spiritual practices, our healing practices, our inner work, all that we can do to buoy ourselves up in order to support ourselves, our families, and those around us, and do it in the best way we can. It's sort of, I think, a spiritual test, really. Um, you know, Not in a bad way, but in a sense of awareness. Just awareness of how are we doing? How are we doing with all that is? Okay. I do believe in the principle of growing through whatever we are presented with, that whatever shows up is part of our journey for unfolding, transforming, and we have choices in all of it. Okay. So today I wanted to talk about, just ask you the question, are you thriving or just surviving? And what does that even mean? What's the distinction there? Thriving or surviving? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I think that means. And of course, you're the expert of you. You can decide what it means for you. But when I think about surviving, it's about getting our basic needs met. And that's really why we sort of had a tailspin together in our communities. We're seeing it in the world. There was a threat to our basic needs of survival, a threat of having enough food, and for some people, enough toilet paper. But think about that. That's a basic need too. Elimination. It's a basic need. And when we're in a crisis mode, as we have been, we're not thinking with our cognitive ability. We don't really have the logic and reasoning and that clear perspective to make those better choices. No, we are operating out of that limbic system, out of that reptilian brain saying, I must survive. I must have toilet paper or whatever it is the basic need is for you. So that's the survival part. One way I like to think about it, I talk about this a lot, is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. When our human being is threatened or challenged or we're overwhelmed, as most of us are right now, we're not thinking with the higher perspective. We are thinking about surviving. I think about our human condition as where fear resides, okay? And our spiritual connection, when we're connected to our souls, that is where the opportunity for thriving exists, okay? I often also reference the Course in Miracles, fear or love. Those are the choices, okay? So obviously when we are in survival mode, we are in fear mode. I believe the goal is to get to a place of acceptance, being able to cultivate love in ourselves, for each other, compassion, all of those beautiful qualities that flow out of willingness to see things from a higher perspective and to even connect into a deeper way, not in our monkey minds, but in our hearts and in our souls and in that deeper understanding that we are moving through yet another opportunity to grow. I know a lot of people have a term for that. I can't remember how it goes. Something like another effing growth opportunity. Well, yeah, it is. We are in a collective transformation cycle. I believe so anyway. And it's been escalating. And now we are in really the crux point of it. So how do we move from surviving to thriving? I like to say, well, what's in your thrival bag? You've got to, oftentimes in our survival mindset of surviving, we have what's called a go bag, or we've got food and our basic needs. But what does thriving look like? For me, thriving, and in my thrival bag, are things like joy and gratitude and remembering that we as nature, we are of nature, and therefore we are resilient. We have the capacity to meet what is and not just fold, but rather to really pull up from that deep knowing, not from that, the survival brain. This is a different thing I'm talking about. It is from that soul knowing that all is well, no matter what. All is well and all will be well. Okay? So, how are we meeting the challenges with that perspective, that higher vision perspective? Finding the blessings in the challenges. Honestly, I do believe, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of compassion. I have a lot of heartache about what's happening. There's grief. Definitely sitting with that and recognizing this as grief. I am previously a grief counselor, worked a lot with grief, and I have been, oh my goodness, initiated in life by many losses to know the journey of grief very well. And most of what we're experiencing, I would say a lot of the people I'm talking to, these are grief responses based out of fear. Grief, by the way, is adjusting. It's a natural mechanism of our psyche that is adjusting to loss of some kind. It's not just the death of a loved one or the loss of a loved one. It is the loss of life as we have known it, as we have functioned from, as we have, lived every day in. Okay. So grief responses, extreme exhaustion, overwhelmed, forgetting words. I have a little bit of that right now. A little fogginess, right? A little fogginess of the brain. Feeling, great overwhelm and disappointment and fear. These are grief responses. I noticed myself in a grief response because I started, about a week or so ago, watching too much news, that I would be in the evening weeping, not crying, but I would notice, just weeping every single night. And I've allowed that to be sort of a ritual for healing for me. It's got to happen for me. I'm an empath. I can feel it even if I'm not watching the news. So I call it wringing out our heart. We got to just wring out all that we've collected. And for me, weeping is one of those things. And if I'm not weeping, I will purposefully put on a movie that will help me get those tears flowing, help me wash my soul clean, help me clear all that fear and come back to that choice point of, okay, now, how do I thrive here? What does thrival look like here? And what are the blessings and the challenges? Okay. So for me, I do feel being with what is and looking for those blessings, I kind of feel, this is the sense I have. I feel, however you believe and connect to Source, Creator, God, for my Christian friends, Jesus, how this higher being, this higher power has put us on a time out. Not in a punishing way, not like go to your room, go to your corner, but we are being asked to stay home. Stay home. Shelter in place. For what purpose? Yes, there's the obvious human aspect purpose. We want to make sure that we don't spike this virus and we don't overwhelm the medical systems and those heroes out there, the nurses, the doctors, the medical staffs. We want to support them in the way that we can by sheltering at home, staying at home. Okay, so that's the human perspective. Now let's look at the spiritual perspective. Why would this be happening for us individually, this time out? Here's my question. What things have been calling to your soul for a long, long time that you haven't said yes to? For me, putting off writing a book, I never had time. I have time now. It's time to get this book done. Have you wanted to learn something? Have you wanted to, learn how to play a musical instrument or study something or do some artwork? We have access. We are so blessed with access to YouTube, stores and stores of information. Anything you want to learn or try to experience, you can. There's no limitations right now except for the limitations of our mind. Yes, we can argue we're limited. We cannot go and do the things we used to do. But ask yourself, instead of what can't you do, what can you do? What can we do? And to lean into this as an opportunity for that unfolding of our purpose and potential, and unfolding of our highest and greatest yet to be. This is a perfect time to vision. I teach a class called Sacred Soul Visioning, and I tell you, no better time than right now. We must have a vision beyond what we're experiencing, okay? For me, this is being with what is, with our spiritual lens, with our willingness to thrive and not just survive, okay? So, in terms of surviving versus thriving, again, think of the qualities that would be thrival for you. I must have my joy. If I'm not laughing, I'm in crisis. If I can't feel buoyed up by a joyful thought, or a positive thing, a positive thought. See, I'm not finding my words, but you know what I'm saying. That's an indicator that I'm off track and I'm not thriving. Years ago, I used to facilitate a grief support group for hospice. And one of my goals with the group it was sort of a check the list of this was a good group, was if we not each, but if there was laughter in the group that day, if there was laughter and joy, we can have grief and sorrow and challenges, but we need our friends, joy and laughter. And we all have an individual spiritual need. Yours may not be joy. Yours may be something else, but find it. That's how we thrive. That's thrival. So I'm going to end on this note. A couple of things. I love the quote by Clarissa. I keep messing up her name every video I've done. I'm so sorry. Clarissa Pincole Estes, forgive me. It's such a beautiful name to mess up. That's me and my humanness, making mistakes and messing up and still showing up to support you, okay? But she says that do not be disheartened, for we were made for times like this. What does that mean? To me, I interpret that as made for a time of cultivating higher and greater yet to be. That's what I make it mean. That we have what we need within us if we're willing to lean into it, to sort of look inside and say, what's here to support me through? What strengths do I have? What do I need to up-level a little bit? More courage, more trust, more faith, more peace? Our choice. That's the work. The more we work here within ourselves, the more we have to contribute to those around us and to our communities and ultimately to the world. We are all in this together, aren't we? So I had I like to play with reframing. Instead of thinking of yourself as having to social distance or physical distance, there's all kinds of different terms, or social isolating or quarantine, all of that. We can reframe that. My personal choice is compassionately cocooning. And I like that because when you think of cocooning, it means a transformation is underway. Okay? We are in a collective transformation right now. What we do with it is our choice. What we choose moving through this time will either help us cultivate what is needed for what's beyond and rise up together, or be stuck in that same old place. I don't want to be stuck in the same old place. I want to dissolve the old and rise with the new. How about you? So here is my reframe for sheltering in place. Okay? That makes sense. It's not so harsh. It's possible. Yeah, we're all sheltering. Sheltering is, it's such a cozy word, that we're sheltering. Basic need, sheltering in place. Here's my reframe though. What if, instead of sheltering in place, we choose to shelter in peace? And another tool that I play with, a transformational tool, is taking a word that you want to lean into, a quality, a way of being, and expanding it by making an acronym out of it. Now, here's my acronym for peace. So these are the qualities that I want to choose to cultivate as I'm sheltering in peace. P stands for purposeful. It is purposeful that we are doing this. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone else, and for the possibility of moving through this as safely and as well as we all can. Empathy is for E. Empathy. I have great empathy for everyone struggling through this right now. Everyone who is wondering how to put food on the table. Where is their next check going to come from? How are they going to pay the bills? Believe me, I'm right in there with you. I am. Okay. I have great empathy there. Accepting. Accepting. We accept what is. If we keep resisting, we're going to miss the lesson. We're going to miss the opportunity. We're going to feel stuck, and we're going to, what we resist persists. It's going to be harder rather than leaning in with acceptance, accepting where we are and what is needed. C in peace is compassion, having compassion for ourselves and each other and our world that we share. Okay. And E is my favorite, equanimity. I love that word. It's just, that's it. If we can hold that state of equanimity during this time, we will thrive through what is. We will grow through what is. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm choosing to thrive. I choose thriving over survival any day. So let's do this together. I want to hear from you. What does thrival look like for you? What's in your thriving go bag? What are the essential needs that you must meet from that spiritual lens in order to rise up and grow through what is? I want to hear from you. We're all in this together. So comment below, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and click on that bell and you'll get my current updates. I'm trying to do smaller, it's hard for me. I talk a lot, you can tell now. Smaller meditations that are more digestible, more doable, more probable that someone will reach for that, 10-minute replenishing meditation, or a quick little, let's say I'm at 16 minutes now. My goal was 10. I better wrap it up. Just a little bit of inspiration to say, we've got this. We're in this together. Let's bring our best for ourselves, our families, the world, and each other. Okay. Bless you. Take good care. Be well. Until next time.